Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us. What I want to do is just take a few minutes and say thank you for joining me this evening. As you're aware, tonight we're going to be talking about how to start a small business. Now, there's a significant amount of information that I am going to share in a very short period of time, so I will go as quickly as I possibly can, hopefully. My partner tonight in crime, who normally monitors my questions, is not available, so you're stuck with me. Isn't that fun? So let's get this started. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about some of the housekeeping that we normally do. We begin every webinar this way. And what I want to remind you about is that all participants during this webinar are muted so that we can try to get through all of the information as quickly as we possibly can and still provide value to you, our attendees. This webinar will be recorded and will be sent out to all participants. Now, the beauty of this is that I've actually hit record tonight, so this is a good thing. I have messed this up once or twice. So we will be sending this out once the webinar has been digested, probably tomorrow morning. Next, we do have questions and answer box available for you to ask any questions. Like I said, my co-patriot, my friend who normally monitors this box is not joining us this evening, so I'm hoping you will keep your questions to the end, but I do have it open and I will answer them to the best of my ability as quickly as I can as they come through. Lastly, what I want to say is enjoy this webinar. This is about you. This is about providing you with information that may be valuable to you, especially if you're starting down this road of starting a small business. Our agenda. So as you can see, this agenda is pretty intense tonight. We've got a few things that we need to do. Now, we've already gone through the introduction, getting to know me as your speaker, talking about some market research and knowing what your risks are. Registered in your business, believe it or not, actually rather important. Setting up a budget and small business funding. We're going to touch on marketing and then just summarize everything. We'll leave some time at the end for some questions if there are any questions to be had. Now, let's get this started. So who am I? My name is Tammatha Denyes, and I am a certified professional bookkeeper. I am the owner and CEO of TD Accounting Services. We're physically located in Sterling, Ontario, which is just north of Belleville, but we service our customers across the country and actually internationally now too. As I said, a certified professional bookkeeper, and what that means is that I have taken a very significantly hard test that I have to keep upgrading on every year to keep this certification. Similar to a CA, just not the same. I am part of the Trainer Writer Network with Intuit Canada, and that means I spend a significant amount of time preparing webinars and blogs and other materials so that I can share with both my colleagues and small business owners to help them understand cloud technology and what it takes to make their bookkeeping a little bit more manageable for them. I am a futurepreneur mentor. This is one of the things that I absolutely love doing, is giving back to my community and helping other small businesses build wherever they happen to be in Ontario. I am a founding member of the Quinte West Startup Canada branch. It's lots of fun, and if you haven't joined and you're in the area, please do. We do have, I believe it is monthly meetings at the Wireless College. I was recognized this year for being a top 100 pro advisor in North America. It's a pretty big deal. And I am on the Institute of Professional Bookkeepers Board of Directors. And again, it's all about giving back to my community. I am considered a financial coaching strategist to the small businesses that we help and who are our clients right now at this time. And some of the things that I'm most proud of is that I am a golfer. and I have two holes in one, 17 days apart. If you ever want to hear the story, reach out. I'll give you a little blast of that. I am a speaker, an avid speaker at that, and I love to write. My clients call me their badass, forward-thinking bookkeeper. But I think my biggest accomplishment this year is I was the 2018 runner-up for the Global Firm of the Future, and I'm rather proud of that particular accomplishment. Now, let's get into why we're here today. And this webinar is on how starting a small business. You have a passion. You really do. And what is that passion about? Where do you begin? Starting a business is scary. There's no question about it. There's so many things that are running through your mind, and maybe this was one of those ideas that woke you up in the middle of the night. Well, write your ideas down. I mean, if you're passionate about whatever is keeping you up at night, or you have that enthusiasm that's boiling in the back of your mind and you're getting excited just thinking about it, write out those ideas. Write them down. This is what it starts out looking like. The next thing you need to do is start looking at the pros and cons of this particular idea. Perhaps you need to actually write down that pros and cons list, the pros on one side, the cons on the other. That doesn't mean that's a reason not to start your business, but at least take the time to start this so that you have an idea if this is going to work for you or not. When you start this journey, though, or you actually get this idea in your head, take a minute and talk to someone that you trust. This could be your accountant, it could be your best friend, it could be a colleague, it could be the guy sitting across from you that you've been working with for the last 20 years. I promise you, most people are not going to laugh at your ideas, but what they are going to do is they're going to be a sounding board. Take that time and do that. It's well worth it. And if you've come to the conclusion that this is really what you want to do, starting this small business, then speak to someone at your local small business center. They have business coaches. They have ideas. They have so many different plans, people, ideas to help you out. There's no reason why you shouldn't take that step if you've decided to take this path. But once you've done all of those things, now it's time to get serious. And you have to start somewhere. And where is that somewhere? That is start on your business plan. Now, business plan's a little bit intense, but it's time to start. And a business plan can be really valuable to you. And you're saying to me, what is a business plan? Well, business plan is a number of different things, but it starts as a sales document. Think of it that way. Where is it that you want to go? What is it that you want to sell? What is it made out of? i.e., what does it take for you to sell whatever it is you're going to sell? It could be services. It could be product. It could be anything. But creating this business plan, it takes you from the start to projected future of where you want to be. That could be 6 months. That could be a year down the road. Some business plans can be drawn and drafted up to be potentially a 5-year plan. Most business plans are dynamic, and that means they're flexible. It allows you to pivot very quickly if something changes. It evolves as your business evolves. That is the value of a business plan. It's not something that's set in stone. So as you change, as you grow, so does your business plan. I call it pivoting. When I create a business plan for myself, and I do it once a year, or I at least revisit it once a year, I always make sure that my plan has room for fluctuation so that I can pivot, so that I can change on the fly when I need to. I look at cash flows. I look at what products, or in my case, services I want to sell, and what is it that I want to invest in the future to make me viable to future businesses. So this is what my business plan looks at, and I'm looking sometimes 2 and 3 years down the road. What do I need to invest in now to have something that's of value 3 years from now? But these are things that this business plan can help you with. So if you're going to start a business plan can actually help you do three things. It can turn your ideas into a viable business for you. That business plan can help you secure financing from lenders and investors. And it can help you identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and possibly any threats to the business idea that you have. These are all things that you want to recognize before you start down this path. So where are we going to start first and foremost? Well, as I mentioned, we have to start with market research. So let's look at some of the things or some of the basic questions you should be asking. Who are your customers, first and foremost? What do they buy now? Why do they buy? And what will make them buy from you? 4 questions, they're all tough ones. So who are your customer? So this is where I create a vision, an image in my mind. Who is my, and I use air quotes here, my ideal customer? Well, in my case, my ideal customer is someone who's a business owner, possibly has a couple of kids, uses their cell phone, is comfortable with technology. Okay, I'm not going to bore you, but you see where I'm going with this. You as a new business owner need to do the same thing. So let's pretend that you have this absolutely fantastic idea that you want to sell cars for a living. Well, who's your ideal customer? This is what you're trying to figure out. So a little bit of market research is going to help you determine who that person is. The more focused your research is, the more valuable it's going to be to you. What do these, now keeping down this whole thing about a car dealership, what do your potential customers want to buy? Do they prefer Hondas? Do they prefer Audis? Maybe they like Lamborghinis. I know where I live, they like Sonatas, Hyundai Sonatas. But am I going to take the time and fill my car lot filled with Sonatas? Well, if I want to have fairly quick turnover, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So doing a bit of market research is going to help you figure out what it is that you are going to be able to sell to the market that you're currently residing in. The next thing you're going to ask yourself is, why do they buy? Why do they buy this particular thing or this particular car in this analogy? Why do they buy it? Is it because they're tight on money? Is it because they have money? Is it because they have a lot of disposable income? Is it because they are the father with a spouse and 3 kids? Getting to know the market that you're selling in is going to make a huge difference in your success. And this is some of the research you need to actually look at, or at least that I would look at. What will make them buy from you? So let's look at this question for a second. What have you got that Johnny down the street doesn't have? Well, I don't know about you, but we have this car dealership locally that talks about mustard. And for every new car or every car that's new to you that goes off the lot, they give you a bottle of mustard. It's a gimmick, but you know what? That guy moves cars off his car lot like you would not believe. I don't think it's because of the mustard, but that's just a little something that makes people come and check him out. It's unique and it works. It's not going to work for everybody, so I'm not going to tell you to go out and buy a case of mustard, but it is an interesting gimmick that works. It's going to get them in there. They're going to see something that they like. They may take it for a test drive, and they may drive it off the lot with money in your pocket. So market research, let's talk about some of these things. You need to know your market, and you need to prioritize the results that you learn. Review what you have found, and how did you find it. You could have possibly gone down to the local Chamber of Commerce. You could have gone to City Hall and received information. For me, researching can be one of 2 things. It can be really, really expensive, or it can be fairly inexpensive. Now, in my own, again, I do a lot of talking about my own area. Here in my local area, I did a lot of research myself, and it was all on the ground, doing research, talking to different businesses, going to my Chamber of Commerce, going to Town Hall, and finding out how many businesses were in my area, breaking it down by demographic, and then doing some surveys with those businesses to see what kind of results I got back. This was a really inexpensive way to find out what my demographic was in my area. You could do this research yourself, like I did, and save yourself some money, or you can hire someone to do it for you. Someone who's going to be able to gather the information that you need to make informed decisions on what type of business or how well your business may or may not survive in the market that you're choosing to have it. Market research. Let's look at knowing your risks. Wow. So I have 5 different risks here. All of them are equally as important, but I'm going to take a minute. We're going to talk about them all. The biggest one to me is financial risk. So 2 different ways you can do this. You can work part-time on your side gig, or you can work it as a full-time job. Possibly pay yourself $5 a week, $25 a week, and try to survive and really work that business. But either way, there's a lot of financial risk here. You could be losing, a weekly paycheck that you're so used to having. You could be diving in head first and wishing for the best. Please don't do that. But financial risks, you're committing to possibly not having a paycheck next week if you haven't done your due diligence and researched your market. You're risking paying the ability to pay your bills and put food on the table potentially. I'm not trying to scare you off, but financial risk is a big factor. So this is a risk you should be aware of. There's also legal risk. And I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer here, but laws can change. There's health and safety regulations. There's labeling requirements. There's rules and regulations and guidelines on how you have staff and how to handle them. And let's get real, the Me Too movement. There's so many different risks legally. You should be taking these into consideration. Something else you need to consider is the human factor. So if you're running a one-man show, it's just yourself, you're a solopreneur, you have no employees, you have no subcontractors, the human factor is yourself. But let's say whatever business you chose, let's go back to the car lot. You can't do it by yourself. There's no way. You can't be selling the cars, gassing up the cars, cleaning cars, cleaning the floor in the showroom. You can't do it all. There's going to be people involved. So here's your human factor. You're gambling that you can hire reliable people to help you. Now, this is a smaller gamble, but it's still a risk. Can you hire qualified staff without busting your budget? Are they competent? Did they lie on their resumes? That's hard to say, but these are risks that you take. Are they even competent enough to do the job? Well, I don't know. I can push a broom fairly well, but I'm not really good at marketing. And I could lie on my resume and you'd be stuck with me until I proved that I couldn't do it. What about trustworthiness? So here's another risk. You have a cash box. You have a till for whatever reason in your place of business. These possibly are risks that you're taking that the persons that you hire may not be as safe around money as others. I think this is the biggest risk of all when it comes to the human factor is you hire someone, you entrust in them, and as far as you're aware, they're pretty amazing. They've taken to whatever job you've given them like a fish to water. But who's saying that that person isn't going to find a better paying job somewhere else and say, I'm sorry, I've got to go. So this is the human factor. This is the risk of having human beings in your business with you. Another risk to look at is market risks. And I mean, let's get real here. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It can be software, it can be jewelry, consulting services. You could be a bookie like me. Your business can't succeed unless someone is buying. Even if you conduct really good research, it may turn out that customers don't want your product as much as your business plan projected. So I don't know what to say to you here, but this is a risk that you might possibly take. But you can minimize your risks. And don't let these potential risks discourage you from living that dream of entrepreneurship. There are so many young people today, and people my age too, I'm not young, who go out and they start a business because they had a dream. And that dream is so encompassing that they've learned to minimize the different risks so that they can live a fulfilled life by doing what they love. Do your best to anticipate these risks. You're not going to know how to solve them until you get there. When I first started down the employee train, I must have went through about 5 people before I found the first team member that has been around with me now for 4 years. Absolutely love this person, and I honestly would feel that this person is my right hand. These are risks that I've had to mitigate, and I'm okay with it. Just keep in mind that you can minimize your risks. You can learn how to deal with it. You can put backup plans in place. Just don't let it kill that entrepreneurial dream. Whoa, sorry, went a little fast with my mouse there. So one of the things that I did want to talk about is registering your business. So now that you've thought about sitting down and working out your business plan, you've considered the risks, you've tried to mitigate them as much as possible. Now we're actually going to get into the meat and the bones of starting that dream, starting that business that has kept you up at night. And registering your business starts basically with going and doing some groundwork, getting some dirt. How do you put it? Putting in some dirt on your shoes. Before you register, you're going to need to know a few things. So where is your office going to be? Are you going to do it from your home? Are you going to have storefront? Are you going to work from a co-working space? So, get a PO box. These are things you're going to need to know. A question to you: what provinces and territories are you going to plan to sell in, especially if you're e-commerce? Now, if you are a storefront and you sell services, it's pretty straightforward. You're going to sell to a local environment potentially. But if you're selling software, if you're a drop shipper, you could sell anywhere. And there's tax laws and tax rules you have to consider, but these are things that you're going to need to know before you go and register your business. What about your proposed business name? Have you done any due diligence with that? You could do a nuanced search. That would be handy. Some of us didn't do that, and we just went out and incorporated as a numbered company. But finding out if someone else has your proposed business name, or finding out if someone else can send you a cease and desist letter because you've used a part of their name, might come in handy 5 years down the road. I get this comment all the time because of my business name being TD Accounting. Oh, are you with TD Bank? No, I'm not. And maybe one day I might have that cease and desist letter, but for now we're going to let it go. Something else you need to look at before you register is HST. So I get this question a lot from small business owners that come into my office, and they want to talk about, do I need an HST number? Do I need to register with Revenue Canada? And I have 2 answers. Well, do you plan to make $30,000 in the first year? in your projections in your business plan? The answer to that is yes, then you need to have an HST number. If the answer to that is no, this is just a hobby, I'm only planning on making $10,000, this is what I've projected, my answer to you is it is now your choice. There's paperwork involved, and you are going to have to pay someone to do that paperwork, or you're going to be doing it yourself. Do you have the time? Do you have the wherewithal? Do you even want to handle it? So now the choice becomes yours. HST numbers, do you need it? Yes, in some cases you do. But an HST number puts you into a trust position with Revenue Canada. And if you are collecting taxes on behalf of Revenue Canada, and you do not pay these taxes because they're held in trust on the government's behalf, you can and potentially will be held liable to pay those funds if you don't. It becomes a personal debt. So keep that in mind. Before you actually go and register, you're going to and complete the application, you're going to need a Visa or a MasterCard to pay for online services. Use your credit card to check to see if someone else has the same name that you're thinking of, registering and renewing a business name online. You're also going to need a valid email address. So maybe you want to use Gmail. Maybe you want to invest in getting a business domain after you've done your due diligence and create an email address for yourself. You're going to need that if you're going to apply online. What does it cost? It is going to cost anywhere between $8 and $26, depending on the types of records you want to include in your search. It's going to cost $60 to register your business, and it's going to cost $60 to renew it. You can also use the enhanced business name search feature to check out if someone is already using your business name. And I can tell you, at least in my country, in Canada, I'm the only one using TD Accounting Services. Thank you. Now, there is one in Australia, but it's not the same name. So now let's look at, oh, geez, I keep hitting the wrong button tonight. Let's look at different types of business. So again, another question we get when people come into our office is, what kind of business should I run? Should I have a sole proprietorship? Should I get in business with my wife? Should it be a partnership? Or should I have a corporation? Should I invest in that? Well, let's look at the different types of businesses. What's a sole proprietorship? Well, that's you, yourself, and that's it. You are the person, you are the head honcho, you make the rules, you take on the debt, and if everything crashes, you're holding the bag. That's a sole proprietorship. At tax time, what that means is all of the income that you generate minus all of the expenses that you had to pay out to make that money, what's left over is your income. So let's look at this from a different point of view. We're going to use some good old-fashioned numbers here. You went out and you made $30,000, and you had spent $20,000 to make that 30. That leaves you with $10,000. Well, I promise you, you're not going to see $10,000 in the bank because you've probably used that money to invest in your business and buy some assets like some desks or probably a computer, something along those lines. But you're still going to pay income tax on that $10,000, and you're going to pay income tax at a personal tax rate. Keep that in mind. Partnerships. What's a partnership? Well, it's taking that same description, $30,000, $20,000 in expenses, $10,000 left over. In a partnership, you're going to split that based on what percentage each partner holds. So let's say you have a 50-50 partnership. That $10,000 income that was earned in this particular scenario, $5,000 goes to one partner and $5,000 goes to the other. So it's split 50-50. Excuse me, I'm going to have a little slurp here. So partnerships is great for splitting income. You can also split losses in the same way. But partnerships have more complexity. It's a little harder to get out of. I like calling it a marriage of sorts. So when someone comes to me and says, I want to partner up with this person, I look at them and say, you do realize this is like getting married, right? So if you don't like this person, just like if you were to divorce a loved one, there's some costs that are going to be incurred, and it could be a little messy. So I kind of make sure that when people come in and talk about partnerships, that they understand that it could get messy if things don't work out. Partnerships can be great, especially if there's a yin and yang effect. I'm really good at finance, I'm really good at marketing, but this person over here, the person I want to partner up with, is really, really great at sales. They could sell a freezer to an Eskimo. That possibly could make a very great partnership. Or let's look at an accounting office, which I happen to know quite a bit about, as we all know. We've got a really good bookkeeping division, but we don't have a great accounting division, i.e. T2 returns and such. We could mirror up or join up with an accountant and create a partnership. Well, my yin to their yang, this could work. We could possibly have a great partnership, and there's not going to be a conflict. Now, I'm not saying there won't be, but this is just a thought process. So now let's look at corporations. Corporations are different. The difference between a corporation and a sole proprietorship or a partnership is that a corporation is a living, breathing entity of its own. So when I pay taxes as a sole proprietor or 50% of a partnership, I'm taxed at my personal tax rate. A corporation, on the other hand, is not. There are tax rates specific for corporations, which is significantly lower than personal tax rates. So people ask me, should I incorporate or should I just start a small business? Well, that's up to you, but sole proprietorships and partnerships are less expensive to start. Corporations start at least $1,500 minimum in our area. And that's just the paperwork to get started. That's getting your articles of incorporation, that's hiring the lawyer, that's making sure all of your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. This is an investment. And not only that, when it comes to tax time, you're going to be paying a significantly larger amount to file your taxes. It's not cheap to be incorporated, but the costs are mitigated if you're actually making a significant amount of income. Some people will come to me who are making $70,000 net income after all expenses are paid, and they're paying a high tax rate because they're being taxed at personal. This is when you can sit down and say, it just is a justifiable expense to incorporate at this point. It's something to consider. Some people incorporate right out of the gate. It really does come down to, it comes down to you and what you want. Sole proprietorships and partnerships, there's a level of risk that is taken on by the owner. With a corporation, that risk is mitigated. The only time a person in a corporation can be held at risk is if there's trust funds involved. So holding on to that HST and not paying it, or having employees and not paying salary remittances, then that's when the owners of the business can be held liable for those specific debts. So again, just something to consider. So when you're registering your business, knowing the type of business that you actually want to start could be important. Each and every one of these options, there's pros and there's cons for all three of them. Take the time, do your due diligence, and do your research, because it's easy to go from sole prop to corp, but you can't go from corp to sole prop. Now, let's go on to the next. What you'll get when you register. So, master business license. I don't have a picture here of it, but it's a really nice looking document, just saying. It's 5 years. A master business license is a 5-year document. It's a ministry stamped copy. You can get it in the mail. You can get it in person. I had mine emailed to me. It was great. I got a profile summary and I got my payment receipt. It was simple. Financing. Financing and setting up your budget. So this is my fun stuff. This is my expertise. I love to budget, but that's the geek in me. So in my business plan and in my budget, because I never stop budgeting in my business, I sit down and I look at all of the different possible income streams that I can make money with. So let's look at what those could be. That could be monthly bookkeeping. That can be taxes. That can be generating additional income because I sell subscriptions to somebody. So right away, there's 3 income streams. Let's look at a service-based business that isn't accounting. Let's look at legals. You could be doing up wills. You could be a real estate lawyer. You could be a personal injury lawyer. You could be a criminal lawyer. These are 4 different income streams in a legal office. So tallying up what your projected income is in each of these streams is the top line of your budget. How much money am I going to make? The next thing you're going to need to do is figure out and determine what your fixed costs are. But what are your fixed costs? So your fixed costs are things that you can't get away from. Things like your rent. Okay, so we all have to pay rent, whether we rent a co-working space, whether we work out of a small room in our office, in our home, or maybe we actually did rent storefront. That is a fixed cost. Regardless, I'm going to have to pay that. And what other types of fixed costs are there? Well, that's your heat, hydro, water, rent. I think you know where I'm going with this. These are things that are not going to change. They have to be paid regardless if you make money or not. Those are your fixed costs. Figure out what they are and review them. Write those tallies down. So these are guaranteed costs you're going to have to pay regardless. These are definitely income. You're going to have to generate enough income to pay these fixed costs for sure. So the next thing I want you to do is sit down and figure out what your variable costs are going to be. And what is that? Could be paper from Staples. That could be, bear with me here, gas for your car. Let's say you're a guy who mows lawns and gardens. This is what you want to do. This is your dream job. Well, in this particular case, what would be your variable costs? My variable cost could be the shears that I have to sharpen once a week because I'm trimming hedges. That's a variable cost. I don't know if I'm going to have to sharpen my shears once a week or once a month. It's variable. Depends on how many bushes I have to trim back. But what isn't a fixed cost is the gas that goes in my lawnmower. See what I mean? Figure out what your variable expenses are going to be. When it comes to variable costs, they're going to fluctuate. Some months are going to be higher and some months are going to be lower. But the beauty of it is, do I absolutely need to spend that money or do I want to spend that money? It's like an Apple Watch. Do I need an Apple Watch to run my business? Nope. It's pretty cool. It's a want. So that is a variable expense. The next thing you need to do is predict your one-time spends. What could that possibly be? Well, how about a laptop? Your one-time expense could possibly be a new laptop if you're an office worker. You're going to spend it, and then you're not going to spend it again for another 2 years. But you're still going to have to spend it to start out. And when you're creating that budget, it's going to be pivotal. It's going to be important for you to realize what those one-time spends are because we're trying to budget for them. Now, the last thing you're going to do is you're going to put all of these things together. So I've got my income, I've got my fixed costs, I've got the costs that I can control, which are variable, and then I've got those one-time spends. My new computer, my new laptop, my new printer, my new scanner, those types of things, my one-time fixed costs, my one-time spends. Put it all together and this is what my budget is going to look like. Once I've got my budget together, I now have to look at small business funding. And unfortunately, this can be fun or it might not be. So, main sources of small business funding. Personal investment. Well, that can be our RSPs, that can be our TFSAs, that can be our vacation fund we've held in the bank for so long and we haven't gone on vacation because all of a sudden we wanted to start this business, so we've been saving. Personal investment is going to be probably how most of us do start. The next thing is love money. This is when your mother, your grandparents, your spouse, possibly your best friend is kind enough to loan you, air quotes, money to start this business. Just remember, paying them back is always nice, and giving them interest is very helpful. It's still money that needs to be paid back to these people, but this is a source of funding you can look at. Venture capital. I am not well versed in venture capitalism, but it is a way for you to obtain funding. And if you're looking for more information on this, I would strongly recommend small business centers. I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about it because I don't, but what I will say is that it's helpful. Angel investors. Angel investors are generally extremely wealthy people, possibly they're retired company executives that invest in small businesses. They're angel investors because they kind of keep they invest their technical and management knowledge and money, and they're leaders. Angel investors is a great way for you to get money, and there are organizations out there to help you do that. Business incubators, or otherwise known as accelerators, generally tend to focus on high-tech sectors, and they provide support for new businesses in various stages of development. However, there are local economic development incubators which are focused on areas such as job creation, revitalization, and hosting and sharing services. Excuse me. There's government grants and subsidies. This is another way to get sources for small business funding. Government agencies can provide financing, and they're available to most small businesses. You can find information on the web, and you can go to your local small business center, and they can help you find out this information. Last and not least is bank loans. This is generally the most common source of funding for small to medium-sized businesses. Different banks offer different advantages. They can have customized repayment plans. They can have customized personalized services that they offer to you. What I do recommend is that you shop around because, for example, BMO, Bank of Montreal, may offer you something that the Bank of Nova Scotia does not. There may be a lower interest rate. There may be different variables within the loan themselves that make it more advantageous to look at versus, say, another. Don't discount or rule out a bank. Look at them all and then make a decision. So let's look at marketing for your small business. I'm really having a problem with this finger slides tonight. Marketing for your small business. The purpose of marketing is to sell your business's products or services. It's usually best accomplished by positioning your business in front of a target audience and offering something that either solves a problem or offers them something that they can't find somewhere else. Excuse me. I have a dry tickle tonight. I just got back from a conference, guys. I'm really sorry, and I have what I call conference tickle. Conference voice. So one of the smartest things a small business owner can do when they're developing their small business or they're looking at a business plan is look at inexpensive ways to market their business. Now, it just so happens I love marketing small businesses using social media. And social media is an extremely effective way to get people in your community to hear about you, to get people engaging in your product, and to get them learning about what it is that you do without actually selling what it is that you're selling, whether that be products or services. There's so many ways that you can promote using social media. But that's not the only way you can promote your business. So for example, you can use print, you can use radio, but if you're like most small businesses starting out, you don't have a lot of money to do this. So finding ways to inexpensively market your business is going to be key. Using flyers. And again, it really does depend on what it is that you're trying to do or what products and services you're trying to sell. If you're working in e-commerce, social media is almost the most effective way for you to get the word out about what it is that you're doing, the products that you're selling, or the services that you're providing. It allows you to find that ideal customer by using A/B analysis. So here's the thing. I spend a significant amount of time researching marketing when it comes to service-based businesses. And next month, our webinar is going to be solely focused on marketing. So if you want more information, I'm just going to be touching on it today, but this is something you need to consider. And if you want more information, join us next month. And we will be going in an in-depth discussion about marketing your small business, using the tools that you need to use and providing them to you so that you can carry forward. Again, I apologize. So now, to summarize, I love quotes and I love Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs said, I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneur from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. So what does that say? That says to me, if you have a dream and you have an idea, all dreams and ideas will come to fruition if you're willing to work, if you're willing to put the effort into it. It doesn't matter. You put your nose to the grindstone and you will successfully achieve what it is you're looking to do. Now, what you started out dreaming and what it ends up being may be completely different because you pivoted. But at the end of the day, pure perseverance is going to get you there. There's multiple resources for you to review, and there's multiple resources available to you. I'm going to suggest that you take a trip down to your local small business center to get you on track. They offer business coaching, financial assistance through grants, free workshops, and mentorship. Startup Canada is another resource. And as I said at the beginning, no biasness here. Startup Canada is an absolute bevy of information that you can pull from. As a group of entrepreneurs, they work together to help build a better Canada for entrepreneurs, and it gives a voice to Canadian startups. I'm hoping that you have found this particular webinar helpful. And I'm sorry, I am cutting this short tonight because I can't seem to stop coughing. But I do want to thank you for joining us. And I'm wondering, is there any questions out there tonight about small businesses and how to start them? Is there something that interests you and perhaps you may want to hear about in a future webinar? Our job here is not to bore you, it's to provide you with tips, techniques, and ideas so that you too can be a successful entrepreneur in whatever part of the country you're in. I'm not seeing any questions, so what I'm going to do is say thank you so much for joining us this evening. I do hope that you found a lot of information, and I do hope that you do reach out. Here's my contact information. Please do not feel at all adverse to reaching out. I love taking questions. I love helping small businesses, and I'm here for you. So until the next time, we will see you at our next webinar when we talk about marketing for you and your small business. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next month. Bye now.